Hi, my name is Barbara, and I am here with active health coach Melvin Lam. Hi, Melvin. How are you today?
Hey Barbara, I'm good. How are you?
I'm okay. I'm good, but I'm also very keen to kind
Hmm.
of learn a little bit more from you when it comes to, thinking better, because I think it's a really
Hmm.
broad term. But before we get into that, tell me a little bit about, what you do as an active health coach.
Yeah, so for us, Active Health Coach, we are in the Active Health Labs that's located around the island. We have total of 8 Active Health Labs situated across the whole island. So what we do is we actually provide this platform for members of the public to actually come and learn more about their own health and wellness and to adopt certain habits to actually lead a more holistic living. Yeah.
Okay. And for you, so are you focused on a particular area, or does everyone kind of like cover everything?
So all of the Active Health coaches are actually sports science trained. My particular background is I have a master's in sports psychology. So in areas of with the brain and with the mind itself, it's actually more of my area of forte.
Wow, we're gonna dig deep then. Just
Yep.
get all in there.
Yeah.
Cool. So, as part of the Do Better campaign, there are a lot of different areas that have been focused on, and the one that I wanted to know more about, because I
Mhm.
mean, you've got the common ones, like sleep and stuff like that, which a
Yeah.
lot of people, it's almost like they are quite common in terms of being topics.
Mm.
But when presented with Think Better, I was very curious because I'm not actually sure what it entails.
Mm.
I mean, when I say think better, I think some of the challenges that I have based on my own definitions of what thinking better would be, it's just like doing work and using my brain in general, just on a
Yeah.
whole. So tell us a little bit more about what
Mm.
think better, but what are we aiming for here?
Hmm. Okay, so Think Better is a very broad topic, especially in the field of psychology. So
Mm,
the main concept behind Think Better is actually for us to focus on something called executive functions. So for executive functions, it's mainly a set of goal-directed behaviors that all of us have. So some of
right.
the examples of goal-directed behaviors include, solving new problems, or how
Mm-hmm.
do you organize information, how do you adapt to new situations, or even how do you behave in socially appropriate ways. So these are like goal-directed behaviors.
Socially appropriate ways. Okay. Cool, cool, cool,
Yeah.
cool. You meet people sometimes and they're like, they don't have that kind of behavior. Social direction. Okay.
Yeah.
So I did want to, on that front, talk to you a little about some of the problems that I have or
Mhm,
challenges that I face when it comes to, I guess, goal directed behaviors.
mhm,
So one of the biggest, I mean, as a freelancer, one of the biggest challenges I have is code switching.
mhm.
And you know how people code switch languages, right? They flip the accents and everything left, right,
Yeah.
and center. But I think when we hold so many jobs as
Mm,
freelancers, um, sitting down for a couple of hours is not uncommon just to try and power through, emails, notes, everything that you need to get
yeah.
done. You've got multiple deadlines,
Yeah.
but switching in between different types of jobs, because not everything, let's say if I'm a host, not everything's
Mm,
host oriented. It's, I teach at the gym, I do gym stuff, the social
yeah.
media stuff, there is marketing stuff, and it's this huge spectrum of things to
Mhm,
do. And the only way I've managed to deal in a sense is, I write my to-do list every day. If I
mhm.
need to sit down and do stuff, but then you get an email coming in, or you get a phone call
Yeah.
coming in, or you get a text message coming in, and it just distracts me
Yeah.
completely. And then I go on this horrible other tangent, and half the things on my list don't get done.
Yeah.
But it also leads to a lot of careless mistakes,
Mhm,
because your body is doing one thing, but my mind is thinking about this other thing that's just come in.
mm.
And it's almost like you're being pulled in so many directions that my brain doesn't know where to focus or to maintain that focus on. Help.
No worries. Yeah, so I think with the current environment landscape, working environment landscape that's happening right now, especially I think for a freelancer for yourself, it's very common to try to focus on a lot of things at one go. Just the top of my head when I hear you talk about that, it seems like you have probably I'll say 4 to 5 different kind of jobs, and each job entails like a whole series of lists to do kind of things. Yeah. So that's the very essence of like multitasking. So the idea here is that in actual fact, when we talk about multitasking, it's not
Because I'm very
exactly
bad at multitasking.
Yeah, so don't worry. It's like majority of the people are bad at it as well.
That's normal, yeah. Okay.
It's very normal.
Phew.
Yeah. So when we talk about multitasking, we are actually talking about the ability to switch between tasks effectively. It's very hard for us to do 2 things simultaneously at the same time. So there have been
so doing my makeup and watching Netflix at the same time, that doesn't actually count
it's a
as
no-go.
multitasking,
Yeah.
right? Okay.
It's a no-go. I think
I thought I had one thing in the bag.
No, I had a friend who did that, and I think she misdrew her mascara.
Oh.
So she had to like redo everything again. Yeah. So no, I don't think so. But yeah, so I think that there is a research out there that shows that only about 2.5% of the population are able to multitask effectively. So the rest of like 97.5% is just like we are switching between like like you mentioned, doing your makeup, watching Netflix, and attending to your household chores maybe at the same time. Yep. Yeah, possibly.
Vacuum and trying to buy
and what? Yeah. So, however, if you want to switch between tasks effectively, there's a few ways to actually, let's put it across this way to fit them one after another. So let's say, for example, there are 3 things that guides the switching of tasks effectively. So the first parameter is actually called familiarity. How familiar is this new task that you're going to switch to? Have you done it before? Is it like is it something that you do every day? So let's say, for example, if you're watching Netflix every day, that's familiar. So you can reach for the remote control without thinking of it. You can turn on the TV, and you don't really have to put much thoughts into it. So that's familiarity. The second parameter is similarity. So how similar is that new task with your old task? So I mean, obviously, if you're picking the makeup example here, makeup and Netflix are 2 very different things. But however, if you are doing, if you're watching Netflix and probably trying to watch a YouTube video as well, for example, it might be easier because you're still watching the video in that sense. So that's a similarity. The last one is the amount of effort that you need to focus on. So if it's a very cognitive, heavy kind of a task, that's why you have to use your brain to think, okay, how do I solve this problem? Then the effort that you have to put in is way more. It's a bit harder to switch to in that sense. Yeah. So there's these 3 parameters. So in your case, it might be good to plan out. Let's say, for example, I wanted to suggest like have a to-do list, but you already have a to-do list. So maybe you can try to rearrange the to-do list so that the to-do list will flow from one to another, being with those that are similar to each other, flowing from one step to the other. That might be a better way to go about doing it.
Yeah, because so there was this case of I had like a whole bunch of invoices to send out, right? I know, right? You can just see where this is going.
Yes.
And they were all quite similar. And obviously when you do an invoice, you copy and paste duplicate a previous document, just make all the changes. But I had like 5 of them to do. I had fresh emails coming in. I had some of them texting me as well with like invoicing details, and everything just got sent out. I think out of all of them, I got 1 invoice correct to send to the right person. Everything else was like a misspelling here, sent to the wrong person, wrong amount, wrong address. And by the end of it, in between that and doing everything else, when they all texted me like, hey, I think this is, the address is wrong. And I was like, you know what, guys? I'm going to redo all of this tomorrow. Like, you're not going to hear from me for the rest of the day because clearly my brain has cross wires.
Yeah. So I'm not sure whether this is viable. But sometimes at work, if I do have to focus, let's say, for example, if it's invoicing, I actually shut off my email. And I shut off my phone. So I'm not sure whether it's viable or not. But because, you can set like...
Could be.
Yeah.
The do not disturb.
Yeah, or do not disturb. But usually if you put do not disturb on your end, you will still try to, look at it like in case you miss out something. So maybe, the other way that you can try is actually to have blocks of time. So what that does is you set yourself sort of like a goal within a set limit of time. You complete certain tasks. So my usual timing is usually about half an hour to 45 minutes. So every half an hour, 45 minutes, I will do
that's
one
quite
task.
short.
Yeah. Yeah. But
Okay.
the thing is, so okay, can I get a sensing of how long do you take to send out one invoice? Roughly.
Well, to be fair, like if you knuckle down and do it and you've got all the information at hand, it takes like maybe 5 to 10 minutes to create and, you know, send it out and, you know, all the appropriate filing.
Yeah. So let's say 15 minutes per
Yeah.
invoice with everything. You can have 2 blocks of the half an hour to do your invoice rather than just one block. But the whole idea is to be very task oriented in that sense. Because if you're going to juggle with quite a bit of things, it's easier if you just set time aside rather than trying to handle 2 things at one go or even 3.
Yeah, because you tend to feel very like kanchong, you know, like I want to get these done as quickly as possible so that I can move on to the other tasks that I also have. And I think when I try and rush through that, that's where the mistakes end up happening.
Yeah. So usually that's where that's where most people's pitfalls are. There is, I mean, it in recent times, you know, with the circuit breaker and the working from home, there's this word that constantly pops out as well. It's called mindfulness. So people are like, trying to say that, you know, oh, you have to be mindful. For example, in the work you do, in the food you eat, in how you walk. There's also mindful breathing and mindful living, and there's a lot of mindful with a lot of adjectives.
Which is all great and lovely, but I'm like, of all the things that I have to think about, now I have to think about being mindful too.
Yeah. So there might be this acronym that you can try. It's called STOP. STOP.
Okay.
So what does STOP stands for? The first S meaning literally just stop. Stop whatever you're doing. The T stands for take a breath. So in that one breath, the O comes in where you observe. So what do you observe? You observe your own emotions, your own thoughts, and you know what's going on around you. And then P will be to proceed. So after you take that break, you proceed on with whatever you need to do. But of course, with that break,
when would you implement this stop? Because I think when people think like, oh yes, I should practice mindfulness, I'm like, great, now I've got to set another half an hour aside to being mindful. So, you know, this stop, which I usually think is a less intimidating way of practicing mindfulness, maybe, you know, because it's broken down into 4 simple steps.
Yeah.
One of which is proceeding to do whatever you're doing anyway.
Yeah.
So technically you're doing well 2, because the first one's you're just stopping.
Stop. Yeah.
Right?
Correct.
But you know, how often would one do this, or in what scenario? Like, if I'm doing work halfway, do I just be like, oh yeah, I'm gonna stop?
Okay. Great question. So you will not need to take like half an hour out of your time block to actually do it. It's more of like, if you are getting stuck at certain things, for example, or if you feel like, hey, you know, I'm getting a bit flustered, I'm not sure where should I go with my next step, or you know, I have so many things piled up, I'm getting a bit frustrated,
overwhelmed.
Yeah, overwhelmed, yes.
Which I think a lot of people get nowadays, given that everyone's working from home. I think it's especially different for parents.
With kids.
Yeah. Like the school holidays cannot have been easy.
Oh yes.
for the parents, right? Okay. That's a good spot.
Yeah, I mean, if you want, you can. I mean, for parents and for yourself as well, you can practice it with your kid and children as well. Yeah, get them to sit down and, you know.
Yeah, just
get
like
them to sit down. Yeah, and you know, stop.
Take a breath.
Yep.
And just tell me what you're feeling.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good like kind of like a connection with your child as well.
Okay, I like that. I'm gonna try that one.
Oh, great.
My next problem. Okay, so given that I live quite an active lifestyle, and I tend to train and teach at the gym during the first half of the day, which means, you know, we're up at like 6 o'clock in the morning. And I am extremely good at justifying the amount of carbohydrates I should be allowed to eat at lunch. A fact I'm very proud of. But it does also mean that when I portion my days, I'm like, okay, I'm spending the first half of the day at the gym teaching and training, and then the second half of the day either meeting, but I tend to block it away to get work done, or vice versa. So that lunch in between, I'm starving. I can justify my carbs 100%, but then I obviously, you dip into that lull, and then that eats into how functional I am for the second half of my day when I want to get work done.
Yep.
How?
To be very honest.
Are you going to tell me to eat less carbs?
No. I mean, that will be one of the recommendations, but given your lifestyle, I think it's a bit difficult. To be very honest, like before this whole session, I was actually taking a nap because I had the exact same thing, like the food coma that happens to me. Yeah. So I was once asked with a question like, how will you prevent food coma? My answer is, don't fight it. If you have food coma, don't fight it. Just get a short nap. Roughly maybe about 25 minutes. You'll feel more refreshed after that. Yeah, but if you want to not even reach the food coma stage, I think you have mentioned it just now. Less carbs is actually one of the ways. Yeah, unfortunately. But you can, however, consider things like lower GI carbs. I think that will help. So the slow release of the glucose. So this food coma idea is because when we have especially glucose in the stomach, insulin is released. So insulin is that the hormone. Yeah. So everyone knows like what insulin is. So this insulin sends a variety of amino acids into the brain. One of which is the sleepy chemical, which is known as tryptophan. So when tryptophan is in your brain, it actually converts into serotonin, which is our happy hormone.
Yes.
Yeah,
and that's why I'm so happy after carbs.
Yeah. Yes. And after serotonin, it converts into melatonin, which is your sleepy hormone.
Which will make you sleep.
Yes, exactly. So if you want, some ways, for example, if you do not want to cut the carbs, some ways that you can consider, it could be eating smaller meals.
Yeah.
So breaking the meals probably into two, for especially a lunch. That could be one, or it could be just your body telling you that you do not have enough sleep at night.
No, it's okay. I sleep. I'm like I sleep. I'm like, if I can get 9 hours, I get 9 hours.
You get 9 hours, okay.
And 9 hours. Okay. This 10:30 ban on Singapore, like shutting all the bars and restaurants at 10:30. I'm like, I am so okay with this.
That's awesome. But the other way that sounds a bit counterintuitive is actually to be slightly active after your meal. So I'm not saying like after a lunch you should start running like a marathon. No, that would be too heavy. You can consider things like stretching, moving about in the house, or even going for a short walk. I think that's fine. But if you're considering lunchtime, it's a bit hot. Walking might not be ideal. For example, stairs climbing can also work. Of course, don't go too hard. It's not meant for you to work out.
You're not going for a workout.
No, you're not. Yeah, it's more to keep the blood flowing, get your body moving and such. Yeah.
Cool. Okay, I will try to eat maybe smaller portions, maybe split them into two.
Yeah. I think the splitting might work for you better. Yeah.
Yes. So I mean, one thing I did try today was, instead of eating at like 6 o'clock, I had a sandwich after I was done with a run, and I had a break at like, I think this is about 9 o'clock.
Okay.
So it was a good time to eat, but at the same time, by the time I got back from the gym, I still worked up an appetite, but I didn't eat too much.
Yeah.
So I'm awake for our call.
For a longer period of time.
Yeah. So I didn't, I just had a little bit of meat, and there were some carbs in there, but not a lot.
Yeah, I think that's fine.
But we're human. We make slip-ups, like eating a huge portion of fried rice.
Yep. I'm guilty of that. Trust me, I'm guilty of that.
You and me both, brother. You and me both. Awesome. So I think we've definitely helped with my life a little bit more. I think one of my biggest takeaways was definitely that stop thing. I think it makes it a little bit easier to practice that mindfulness. But we did put out a shout out to socials, and we asked people to ask if they had any struggles or challenges when it comes to thinking better. And you've got some responses to the issues that they brought up, right?
Yeah. So I think I saw through some of them. The usual key highlights is with multitasking, which we have discussed about it, and also with keeping your focus on the task. I think
there are so many distractions nowadays.
Yeah.
Not even like with different work in my case, but like, the kids.
Around. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think it's a very real problem that people are facing right now. It's very different from when, let's say, for example, for office workers, when they go into office, they sit down at the desk. There's no like Netflix by the side. There's no like your bed that's on your right side.
Oh my God, having the bed nearby.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think when people are working in the office environment, it's very much
because you're surrounded by other people doing the way. It's the same as like exercising and going for a class versus working out by yourself.
Exactly.
When you go for a class, there are other people doing it, so you're like, yeah, cool, let's do it together.
Yeah.
Go to a workout with no one in the gym by yourself, and you're just like, oh well, maybe I'll cheat on this rep then.
Maybe I'll stop after like 2 sets.
Yeah, it goes from a total of 8 sets to maybe like 4 sets, 10 reps to 8 reps.
Yeah, it's quite common. So for people who continues to work from home, or with alternate work arrangement and such, maybe you can consider. I mean, it's a bit late to suggest this right now, but to convert some of your, I wouldn't say room space, get somewhere else in the living room or something into like a semi-office kind of feel, so that you can create that environment that you can work in. So I think
a door that you can shut.
Hopefully.
Ideally, do not disturb me.
Ideally, yeah. But yeah, so like a different space. Don't create that space inside your bedroom, because I think the line between work and your house will start to blur a bit in this sense. Like you wake up, you jump onto your chair. Okay, not jump. You go to your chair, you start working, and then work ends and you go back to your bed. It's a bit blur in that sense. So try to have that segregation. This is one way if you continue to work from home.
Yeah. Okay. Was there anything else that the socials brought up in terms of ways to think better or the challenges they face?
I actually looked through all, and it seems to.
I think we've covered most of it.
Someone mentioned patience is a struggle. Yeah.
Is there any? I think the stop might be a good one when it comes to that.
Yeah, I was going to suggest that. Yeah. So see, you're practicing already. Yeah.
No.
So I'll suggest. I'll suggest stop will be the best way to actually because when we patience, it means that you signify that there's frustration. So if there's frustration, just stop in that sense, and you don't continue from there.
Right. Yes. Okay, that's good. Is there anything else, maybe a challenge that not necessarily I or anyone from socials has brought up, but something you know of that people quite commonly struggle with, that you would like to share your knowledge?
Personal and some friends' experience is that the topic on attention. So with attention span, or even just how much attention can you contribute to, or can you attribute to each of your tasks. So I think the topic of attention has been coming up quite frequently, which is I think where partially the mindfulness comes in, because people are unable to focus on the present. So I think the idea of attention, I have to put a caveat out there and say that a lot is discovered about the brain and how it works, but there is also still a way more that we do not know about the brain.
Oh, for sure. Definitely.
Yeah, so like if you want to ask like where is, for example, attention sitting in the brain, generally we know where it is, but we cannot specify it to a certain brain.
You can't be
portion.
like right there, 2 centimeters at the back. Knock, knock, knock. Correct. Pay attention.
Yeah, correct. So I think look at it instead from a structural point of view of how the brain works to a process kind of view. So how can you reach to a better attention span in a sense, rather than
And
trying to force it in.
yeah, and I think it also boils down to what you said about planning. So I shouldn't, or we shouldn't just be writing out to-do lists and then just have this whole chunk, because that can be quite overwhelming as well.
Yeah,
But portioning them out, and then also maybe acknowledging which ones require more brain power.
yeah.
Because I know
So
sometimes after
start at
a
first.
day of work, like your
Yeah,
brain really, it hurts. Like your
yeah.
brain gets tired,
Physically,
and
yeah.
then being able to string a sentence together, completely out of the
Yeah,
park on that one.
yeah,
So yeah, maybe being able to portion things according to, okay, you know, this is second nature to me, I can power through these quite easily.
yeah,
And you know, that 30-minute block is a
yeah.
great idea.
I think
Okay, so
drawing from your conversation, right? I think something like I think people don't do this enough. It's celebrating the small wins. So people only look at, oh, I finished this project, but they don't look at it in segments, like, oh, I've
mhm.
reached like this phase of this project. So
Ah,
maybe to push yourself further, for example, look at it in the small wins of how you build up to that big win in the end.
wow, that's a good point. I like that one.
Hmm.
Acknowledging self-praise. Yes.
Yeah, self-praise, yeah.
You did good. Here's a pat on the back.
But
These
yeah,
people are just gonna see me walking around like
just
after one class at the gym. I'll be like, "Good job, Barbara. That was a good class. You put in a lot of effort." Awesome. No, I like that one as well. I think even if people don't, and that's the thing about thinking better. Sometimes you don't know what you're struggling with until you hear about it, and you're like, "Hey, you know what? That makes
yeah.
sense. I have that trouble too." Um, well, I think that's all it is. All I've got from me. I
Hmm.
feel like I can. There are definitely some fantastic takeaways that I can, you know, go and implement, and stop every now and then and
Yeah.
split up my meals.
Yep. Oh
Um,
wow, that's a lot of things that you can work on.
yeah, there are
Yeah.
tons of things that I can work on. I'm
Yeah.
excited, and I
Get
think
a to-do list
because
down.
yeah, I get a to-do list of the things that I need to change.
Yeah.
But I think the fact that they are all quite minute changes,
Yep.
it's not like I'm going a full force like how I am now to Barbara,
Mm.
go on a keto diet. You
Yeah.
know, it's
Oh
not a
wow. Yeah.
drastic change. These are
Yeah.
all like very minute changes that hopefully without too much effort can be very easily implemented, but then I should be able to see change as well.
Yep. Definitely.
Awesome.
Awesome.
Well, thank you so much
Thank
for
you
your
for having me
time
as well.
today.
Yep.
I really, really appreciate the help. And rest assured, if there are any other questions, I'm sure people are going to hit you
Yeah.
up
Yeah.
over at the active health areas.
Sure. Definitely.
All right. Thank you.
Yep. All right. Thank you. See
Bye.
you. Bye.